Hello there guys, and welcome to Saturday's live stream for IFMC. I'm JWF1 and we are here to kick things off with the qualifying session to determine the grid for tomorrow's Hungarian Grand Prix. And if you didn't see what happened last weekend in Germany, a very chaotic race, especially considering somebody was on tight fuel. That man being the winner last weekend, Fernando Alonso, who managed to get back to winning ways at Germany to win the race from Antonio Giovinazzi and Max Verstappen. Lewis Hamilton crashing out last week at Germany, which means now the gap between the pair of them is now down to 12 points between Hamilton and Alonso. So it's closed up again, but still it is just over a victory between Hamilton and Alonso. The pair of them are separated by. We've got bright and sunny conditions here at the new layout of Budapest for IFMC. And just a couple of notes for you. Sergio Perez is back for this weekend after missing out on Germany due to illness, but he's back this weekend. On top of that as well, 1 of 11 teams have only bought an upgrade this weekend. Only one team has bought an upgrade here at Budapest. And finally, of course, Jean-Eric Vergne has a qualifying ban for this weekend because the stewards found him guilty of causing that crash with Esteban Ocon and Valtteri Bottas last weekend at Germany. So he's not going to be taking part in qualifying. Only 21 cars will be taking part instead. As mentioned, we've got bright and sunny conditions here at Budapest. So I think without further ado, let's get to the qualifying session. So here we are then in the pit lane, and we're going to go to the end of the pit lane with, who's at the end of the pit lane? It is Felipe Massa, so we will wait and get this session on the way. 35-minute session, and it'll be very interesting to see what lap times are around here, considering it's a little bit longer than what it has been before. Now we've got a tighter turn 1, and no more bust-up chicane, and a little bit of a longer run towards the final few corners. So, here we go. I think we've got some track activity. I think no, that's just my eyes playing up. Now we have though. I can't tell what that is. That looks like a shadow. I think that's just coming out on the track, and that is Charles Leclerc of Shadow Mercedes. So Leclerc, the first man out on the track for Shadow, as he rounds the first corner. And Shadow, so far, have been lacking behind in terms of pace, and they're looking to try and find some pace that they can. Luckily for them, this is not a high-speed track. This is a downforce track, so they'll be hoping to try and benefit from this track if they can. And as Leclerc just goes out of the right-hander and up towards the left-hander on the track. Meantime, here's Kevin Magnussen in the Suomi. Max Verstappen out on the track, as is Nico Hülkenberg. Antonio Giovinazzi out there as well, as is Pascal Wehrlein, Carlos Sainz Jr., Valtteri Bottas, Felipe Massa, Daniel Ricciardo, Fernando Alonso, who won last time out in Germany, and we'll be expecting Van Dorn and Hartley to be joining these guys out very soon. Here is Leclerc now then. He's just going around the S's as he flicks the car around that right-hander, using a lot of the curb on the outside there to get the best exit as he heads in towards the final few turns on the track. As Leclerc now then preparing to start his next flying lap as he rounds the second to last corner. And Leclerc about to start a lap now then as he comes up towards the final turn, as he's now about to start a lap now then out of the final corner and onto the pit straight. And Leclerc now then starts his lap as he will now head down towards turn 1 on the track. And Leclerc heads down this hill around the hairpin of turn 1 and getting onto the exit of the track as he will now head down towards turns 2 and now up towards turn 3. Down the hill we go now. A very tricky corner, very easy to understeer off as he will now go flat through turn 4. No more bust-up chicane as mentioned. So now up the hill goes Leclerc as he will round a tap on the brakes through that left-hander. As now around the right he goes. And off the curb he goes as he'll now approach the right-left chicane on the track. Around the section of corners he goes. A lot of curb being used on the outside as he now flings the car through the S's. And so far a tidy lap from the Monegasque as he now rounds the S's now then on this flying lap, out of the corner now then, down this long run towards the final few turns on the track, as Leclerc flicks the car round the right-hander, and then up towards the second to last corner will go Charles Leclerc, and let's see what he's able to do then on this lap as he will now approach the final corner, and then he'll soon come onto the pit straight. So right on board with Charles Leclerc, and let's see what the lap time, benchmarking time, going to be. Sorry, it's a 1:20.147 for Leclerc. Here comes Magnussen across the line. He will come, and he goes second fastest only with that lap. P1 for Max Verstappen, P2 for Nico Hülkenberg on that lap. Here comes Antonio Giovinazzi, P2 for him. so he gets into second place. P4 for Pascal Wehrlein, as Valtteri Bottas slots to P2 in the Eldorado. P5 for Felipe Massa. Here comes Daniel Ricciardo in the GRM. Let's see if he's able to continue that qualifying form from Germany. He does. He goes fastest for the moment. Ricciardo goes to the top, and then Alonso beats him at that point, so Alonso goes fastest for the moment in this session. Here's Brendan Hartley in the Monster. He just rounds through section of corners. Behind him is Stoffel Vandoorne in the AMP. And let's see what Hartley can do then on his first flying lap as he rounds the second to last corner. Up towards the final corner comes the Kiwi. And let's see now then as he'll head down the pit straight. Across the line now then goes Brendan Hartley. And where's he going to go? He goes 4th fastest for the moment as Stoffel Vandoorne goes P8 with that lap there then. And that's that for the moment. And so at the moment it is currently Alonso fastest with Ricciardo in second, and in third place is Max Verstappen, I believe. Yes, those three rounding out the top 3 at this stage, but we've still got 8 more cars to do a lap. Of course, Jean-Eric Vergne not taking part because of his qualifying ban, so only 21 cars taking part in this qualifying session, as we have just over half an hour of the session remaining, as Verstappen and Magnussen, I believe that is in front of him, are just coming back into pit lane. And they're quite close behind him, pretty much tailgating him into the pits, it must be said. And so Verstappen now in the pits he goes. Here's Stoffel Vandoorne, who's just completed the lap. He's obviously gone 8th for the moment, and obviously did quite a good job last weekend at Germany, but wasn't able to make that materialise because of a mistake he made, which cost him any chance of maybe getting some points on the board. Wehrlein only picking up the 1 solitary point for AMP last weekend at Budapest, and they're hoping to try and do well here at Budapest. I think I said Budapest by mistake for last week. It was Hockenheim last week. And so Vandoorne in the pits. Anybody else on track? Yes, Sergio Perez, who's back for this weekend, out on the track. And let's see if the Eldorado is any good around these sorts of tracks. Of course, so far this season they've been well, since Mexico, I would have said, their qualifying pace has just been nowhere. They've still been able to get decent race pace in, as we saw in France a couple of weekends ago. We weren't able to see if that were going to be the case in Germany, of course, because Bottas crashed out and Button had an issue with Raikkonen last weekend, so we weren't able to see whether Eldorado would have scored some good points there as well. But as a result, they've again lost third in the Constructors' Championship to Bud Light Lime. Bud Light Lime find themselves 12 points back from EMR in that close battle for second place between 4 teams: EMR, Bud Light Lime, Eldorado and Suomi. So very close battle between all 4 teams. Some people put down predictions on who would get second place, and it must be said that a lot of people believe that Bud Light Lime will actually take second by the end of the season. A lot of people downplaying Eldorado's chances of trying to get second as well, and even EMR's as well. They believe that they've just been struggling for pace recently, EMR. So far, Hulkenberg finding himself in 7th place, which is not ideal at the moment for the German. We'll have to wait and see whether Vettel will do any better a little bit later on. But Perez starts his lap. Also on the track, we have Ed Jones in the Mars Grand Prix car, so he's out on the track. Who else do we have on the track? We also have Romain Grosjean out there as well for Bud Light Lime. His teammate doing a cracking job last weekend in Germany. Nearly won because of the trundling that Alonso had to do in the end because of the fuel. So Hulkenberg's back out. Here is Lewis Hamilton, the current championship leader, looking for redemption after crashing out last weekend at Hockenheim, as he just rounds the final turn. Sebastian Vettel out on track. We also have Esteban Ocon out there for Martini. Kimi Raikkonen out there. We also have Kevin Magnussen out on the track. Antonio Giovinazzi rounds those section of corners. We also have Scott Dixon, Charles Leclerc, and we also have Checo obviously doing a lap. And I think that's that. I think that's all 14 cars out on the track. So we look at Perez now then. He's approaching the end of Sector 2 on the track. Let's see if this is going to be a good lap for Checo on his return after missing last weekend due to illness, as he rounds the final few turns on the track now then. Up towards the second to last corner will go Sergio Perez, and let's see what Checo is able to do now then as he comes up towards the final turn, and he will now cross the line. Let's see what Sergio Perez is able to do on this lap. Across the line he will go, and he goes 9th fastest for the moment. P9 so far for Sergio Perez. Here comes Ed Jones, who comes out of the final turn. The Mars Grand Prix driver will cross the line, and he goes 15th for the moment as Romain Grosjean on the lap. Let's see what the Bud Light Lime is able to do around this track. Around the final turn goes Grosjean, as he will now head down the pit straight, And Grosjean now then, across the line goes the Frenchman, and he goes third fastest for the moment. So Grosjean into the top 3 at this stage. Nico Hülkenberg, can he find room for improvement across the line? And he does. He goes up to 4th with that lap. To P4 he goes. Hamilton third fastest with that lap, not able to get pole from teammate Alonso at this stage. Sebastian Vettel across the line, he will go, and he goes third fastest. So P3 for Vettel. Here comes Esteban Ocon. He goes 5th for the moment in the Martini. Raikkonen slots to 9th in the Suomi. As we now look at teammate Kevin Magnussen, who's down in 18th. So far been struggling in qualifying. And briefly in the press conference before it got interrupted, of course, you touched upon maybe they should look at other options so far if Kevin's not able to pick up the pace as he improves but remains 18th for the moment. Only P11 for Antonio Giovinazzi, so he's struggling at the moment. 21st for Scott Dixon, 17th still for Charles Leclerc as Perez goes back into the pit. So at the moment it is still Alonso fastest for the moment. And then I believe in second place I think is Daniel Ricciardo with Sebastian Vettel rounding out the top 3 at this stage. We'll probably have a look at the top 5. We'll probably look at it from Vettel's perspective to see what the top 5 looks like at this stage. But EMR showing some better qualifying pace than what they did last weekend at Germany, and even at Magny-Cours as well. Last 2 weekends they've been struggling in qualifying, but they seem to have clawed it back. It seems that they look like they so far 3rd and 5th, I believe they are so far in this session. So some improvement there for EMR. It was very clear yesterday that they felt they could have had a better chance this weekend, considering it's not a high-speed track. The downforce could play into their hands, and so far it's definitely helped them out in terms of qualifying, but there's still an Etihad at the top of the stage. But like last weekend at Germany, so far it's not an Etihad front row lockout, it must be said. Still 2 cars separating the 2 Etihads at this stage, as Vettel goes back into pit lane as one of the monster cars goes out on the track. We'll have a look in a little bit who it is. But there's the top 5. It's Alonso, Ricciardo, Vettel, Hamilton and Ocon. That's how the top 5 looks. And it's Felipe Massa who's out on track. In fact, both of them are out on track as well. So both out pretty much, I was going to say the same time, but they didn't come out at the same time. The first 2 to come out on this set of group. On this group, I should say, as Hartley rounds the chicane. A lot of people questioning where his future might stand next season, considering that he will not be with the team next season when they become British Airways Racing, as they will be having a very experienced lineup next season of Dixon and Barrichello. So a lot of people questioning where Hartley's going to end up next season. He might not even be in the top class. Maybe he might have to find a job in GP3 if he wants to continue around within IFMC, but we'll have to wait and see on that. And in fact, Hartley did a lap earlier. He's currently in 10th place. I do apologise for that. So it is Massa that's the first out on track. I do apologise for that. Massa now then rounds the final few turns. And so far he finds himself in P15 at the moment. And he has caused a little bit of trouble, it must be said, since he's come back to IFMC, it must be said. Obviously in France he caused the rollover of Ocon, and then in the first race he didn't even make and then the next race he didn't even make the first turn because of a clumsy error he made. So it's not been a good start to his return for Felipe Massa. Luckily for him there, Daniel Ricciardo wasn't going to come out in front of him. Massa though, in qualifying, just goes around turn 1. There is his good mate Daniel Ricciardo. They are good mates, just to let you know, Massa and Ricciardo. They even when Massa was still racing F1, they used to share a jet with each other at one point. So they get on quite well, but I don't think Daniel will be pretty impressed at the moment if he's going to get held up by Massa whilst he prepares to start his next flying lap. So far Ricciardo on the front row. It'll be the first time in a while that Ricciardo will start on the front row if he can just stay where he is at this stage, as he's currently P2 at the moment. The GOM has definitely made progress since Germany, it must be said. They're finally in a position where they want to be, because they were in this sort of position during pre-season testing, but they just seemed to slip back a little bit during the season, but now they've seemed to have clawed that pace back, and now Ricciardo's showing what he's worth and why he's going to be at Etihad next season. And as you can see, Massa just rounds the final few turns. Up towards the second to last corner will go the Brazilian, and he will now come up towards the final corner. And let's see what Felipe Massa can do now then, as he comes out of the final corner and onto the pit straight we go. And Massa will now cross the lines. It's going to be an improvement. It is. He goes up to 5th. So up to P5 goes Felipe Massa as Ricciardo starts a lap. Here comes Stoffel Vandoorne, who's starting a lap himself. We'll try and look for somebody else on a lap. Then it'll be Valtteri Bottas. He's down in 13th place at the moment. Current pole sitter Fernando Alonso is also out there doing a lap. Around the final turn goes Bottas. And let's see what the Finn can do now then, as he now crosses the line. And he improves and goes up to 8th place, so he gets himself into the top 10. Alonso improves on his pole time. He's now on a 1:19.091, so Alonso improves. As we now look at Carlos Sainz Jr. in the shadow, rounding the final turn. Let's see if Alonso's fellow compatriot can improve. He does. He goes up to 14th place. An improvement for Verstappen, but only P7 for the Dutchman at this stage. Here comes Ed Jones in the Mars Grand Prix car as he will round the final turn. See what the Emirates driver can manage this time by as he heads down the pit straight. Is this going to be an improvement for him? And it is, but he remains in 20th place as Ocon starts last. So far, pacing teammate Verstappen in this qualifying session. Grosjean crosses the line and he remains in 8th place. No improvement. Pascal Wehrlein slots to 4th with that lap. A really good time from Wehrlein to get into the top 4 there. So a brilliant time from Pascal. Here comes teammate Van Dorn. Let's see what he can manage. He's down in 16th. Can he get up close to teammate Wehrlein as he will now round the final turn? And Stoffel Van Dorn will now come down the pit straight and across the line will go the Belgian. Is this going to be an improvement? It is. He goes up to 4th. So 4th and 5th so far for AMP, it must be said. 7th place for Kimi Raikkonen. He improves. So pretty much Hungary, you could say, is pretty much a level playing field, it must be said, for everybody here in IFMC. As a lot of people in positions where they wouldn't normally be if we were on high-speed tracks. Here comes Sergio Perez. He will now cross the line. Is this going to be an improvement? It is, but he remains 17th for the moment, being way outpaced by teammate Bottas for the moment in this session. Ocon on the lap, currently down in 9th, but let's see what Ocon can do this time by as he rounds the right-hander. Out of the turn he goes, as he will now go up towards the second to last corner, and then up towards the final turn will go the Frenchman. Can he improve on his lap now then as he flings the car around the final corner and onto the pit straight we will go. And he looks like he's made a mistake somewhere because that's a terrible lap from him there. 3.6 seconds. He must have made a mistake somewhere on his lap and remains P9 for the moment in this session. As we look for somebody else on the lap. It doesn't appear like anybody else is on the lap, but somebody's just come out in the form of Scott Dixon in the Mars Grand Prix car. And so here is Dixon then as he'll come up now then towards the left-hander, as we have just over 19 minutes of the session remaining to determine the grid for tomorrow's Hungarian Grand Prix here at Budapest. And luckily for us, we won't cross over F1, of course, because the Formula 1 fraternity in real life is off the calendar, and that their race usually takes place. Well, the qualifying takes place at 7 today, and the race for them takes place tomorrow at 7:10, which means that there will not be an AOR race tomorrow. For Apex Online Racing, for anybody wondering. I'll probably remind you tomorrow anyway. If any of you are interested in watching the Apex Online Racing streams for me and Ollie to commentate over them. We're not on this weekend because of the Canadian Grand Prix. And then there'll be another week break at some point during the British Grand Prix because I think a majority of people are off to that track anyway to watch the Grand Prix. So Dixon now then on the track as he heads down towards turn 1, but it looks like he might get impeded because an Etihad and a Shadow have just come out in front of him. One of them's Leclerc, and I think the other one was Hamilton that came out in front, the current championship leader. As Dixon comes out of turn 1 now then, and up towards turn 3 as we just rounded turn 2 a little earlier, that little right-hander. Let's see what the Kiwi can manage then on this lap as he will go down the hill through this flat-out right-hander. A little bit of curb use on the outside, and that is Hamilton in front. It is a yellow helmet. As now round the left-hander goes Dixon, as he will now go around this right-hander on the track, as a lot of curb used on the outside as he will now approach the right-left chicane, and out the corner he goes and into the S's. And let's see what Dixon can manage this time by as he will now approach the end of sector 2, coming off of that right-hander, as he will now approach the final few turns on the track. And into the right-hander now then we go. Dixon will come up now then towards the second to last corner as he rounds the left-hander. Curve being used on the outside. Up towards the final corner then goes Scott Dixon. Can he try and get in front of teammate Jones as he comes out the final turn? Onto the pit straight he goes. Dixon crosses the line. And he improves, but remains... No, he doesn't, in fact. He doesn't improve and remains 21st for the moment. Still being outpaced by Jones, as he has been for the last few races. Hulkenberg down in 13th for the moment, being way outpaced by teammate Vettel. Vettel's on a lap, but doesn't appear to be on improving. 14 thousandths off his personal best in the middle sector, as he now goes around the second to last corner. Let's see what Sebastian Vettel can manage on this time around. It was only 14 thousandths he was off in the middle sector. He could still be on for an improvement around the final sector if he's able to hook it together. Out of the final turn and onto the pit straight, and he doesn't improve. Remains third place for the moment for Sebastian Vettel. And we now look at Brendan Hartley, who's down in 14th, being outpaced by much experienced teammate Felipe Massa. And Massa currently, I think, within the top 10 somewhere in this session. I can't quite remember where. As Hartley now then rounds the second to last corner. Up towards the final turn will go the Kiwi. And let's see what he can do on this lap as he comes down the pit straight. As I think that's Verstappen who's all that behind. Hartley remains 14th for the moment. As Verstappen starts the lap, he's down on the cusp of the top 10. Hamilton down in 6th place at the moment. Let's see if the championship leader is on an improvement. Down the pit straight and across the line goes Lewis Hamilton. And he goes fastest. Hamilton to the top of the timing sheets. It's now an Etihad front row lockout. Hamilton fastest with that lap. Leclerc improves but only to 17th place. Hulkenberg remains 13th for the moment. Still struggling in this qualifying session. Here comes Carlos Sainz Jr. who around the final turn. He's on a lap in the shadow as he will come out of the final corner onto the pit straight and across the line goes the Spaniard. And he remains 16th for the moment in this session. Sebastian Vettel going back into the pits. Here's Antonio Giovinazzi down in 15th place, looking to improve if he can. I think he even struggled here last season, so let's see if he's going to continue to struggle as he comes out of the final turn onto the pit straight and across the line goes the Italian, and he remains 15th, so he's definitely struggling around here at Budapest. As we look at Felipe Massa, who's in 8th place at the moment in the Monster. Up towards the final turn will go the Brazilian. And let's see what Felipe Massa can manage in on this lap as he comes down the pit straight and across the line goes the Brazilian, and he doesn't improve, remains 8th for the moment. Fernando Alonso doesn't improve, remains 2nd, isn't able to grab back pole from teammate Hamilton. Max Verstappen though crosses the line, what can he manage? And he remains 10th for the moment, so he's definitely not suited to this track. He's definitely preferring the high speed tracks than what the downforce tracks offer. Here's Bottas currently down in 12th for the moment. Eldorado is still struggling in qualifying, it must be said. And well, that's that really. They can't really continue to struggle, otherwise they'll lose time in that battle for second in the Constructors' Championship. As now Bottas will round the final turn. Let's see what the Eldorado driver can do. Out of the final corner onto the pit straight. Cross line he'll go, and he improves but remains in 12th place for the moment in this session. So that's that for him really. As now here out on the track then goes Daniel Ricciardo, who's currently in 3rd place, looking to try and see if he can split the two Etiads again. So far, if you look at it in a way, it's an Etihad 1, 2, 3, as Ricciardo is an Etihad employee. So I think that's what team boss Oliver Glazebrook will probably class it at this stage. Ricciardo doing a solid job at the moment in the GRM, as he just rounds that right-hander up towards the quick left-hander. He will go on the track. And out the turn now then before he approaches the long right-hander. So he uses a lot of curb on the outside up towards the right-left chicane. And Ricciardo about to start a lap very soon. Also on the track we have Pascal Wehrlein. So far AMP doing a good job in qualifying. 6th and 7th I believe they are in this session. 20th place Ed Jones on the track. Kimi Räikkönen out there. No, Van Dorn's not 7th. Sorry, in fact it's 5th and 6th, isn't it? I think Van Dorn's currently outpacing his teammate at this stage. Perez, who's down in 18th on the track, he desperately needs to improve. Ocon on track as well. We'll also be expecting Vettel, Magnussen, Grosjean, and Van Dorn, and Dixon and Hamilton to come out on the track, and probably another one to spawn in a little bit because Bottas has just come back into the pits. Ricciardo now then comes down the pit straight as he now starts his next flying lap, as he will head down towards turn 1 on the track. And let's see what Daniel can manage then. Coming off of turn 1, as he uses the curb on the outside, down towards the turn 3. He just came around that right-hander, which was turn 2. Around turn 3 goes Ricciardo, as he will now come out down through the flat-out right-hander, as he will approach the quick left-hander, a tap on the brakes through into that corner. Curb being used on the outside as he rounds this long right-hander, where in real life Fernando Alonso made that very impressive overtake on Michael Schumacher in the wet back in 2006. As Ricciardo comes out of the chicane, up towards the S's we will go. And let's see what Ricciardo's time is going to be this time by, as he rounds the S's now then up towards the quick right-hander. A lot of curb being used on the outside as he heads down towards the final few turns. Let's see how Danny Rick can manage this time by. out of the corner, up towards the second to last corner will go Daniel Ricciardo. And let's see what the Aussie can do now then, as he will approach the final corner. And onto the pit straight goes the Aussie, and Ricciardo now then will cross the line. And he improves but remains in third place, unable to split the Etiads this time by. And so that's that for the moment. Verline not on an improvement. I don't know if he's being held up by the Mars Grand Prix car in front, but he's not improving as he's so far in P6 in this qualifying session as he rounds the second to last corner. Coming off the turn, and he will now approach the final corner. Let's see what Verline can do then this time by as he heads down the pit straight. And across the line goes Verline. This is going to be an improvement. It isn't. He remains 6th for the moment. So Sebastian Vettel has started a lap, currently 4th, still 20th for Ed Jones. Kimi Raikkonen crosses the line, remains 7th for the moment in this session. So no improvement for him. What about Perez? Is he on for an improvement? He's way down the field in 18th place, desperate for an improvement as he will now come up towards the final turn. And he will now come down the pit straight. Across the line goes Checo. And is this going to be an improvement? It is, but only up to 17th place. Perez still struggling at this stage. Still 9th for Esteban Ocon. As current pole sitter Hamilton is on a lap here. He's going to be starting a lap. Here comes Van Dorn, currently 5th. Doing a good job in this qualifying session. Let's see what Stoffel can do this time by. And he remains P5 for the moment in this session. So that's that for Van Dorn. As we look at Romain Grosjean, he's just outside the top 10. Bud Light Lime even struggling in this qualifying session. It must be said, along with the Eldorados. Across the line goes Grosjean, and he remains 11th for this session. Clearly not suited to this track are the Bud Light Limes. As now we look at Magnussen, he's 19th at the moment. He's also again struggling in qualifying. See if K-Mag can improve this time by. Across the line, and he doesn't improve on his final flying lap. He remains 19th for the moment. Scott Dixon, currently 21st, goes across the line. And he remains 21st. Sebastian Vettel stays 4th for the moment. No improvement for him. As we look for another car on the lap, that would be Lewis Hamilton. Can he improve on his current pole time as he rounds the S's? And around the right-hander will go Lewis Hamilton. As he'll come up now then towards the final few turns. Sparks continuing to fly at the back of the Etihad. A lot of curb being used on the outside. Up towards the second to last corner goes Lewis Hamilton. As he uses a lot of curb on the outside. Up towards the final turn. And onto the pit straight goes the Brit as Hamilton will now cross the line. And he remains P1. He still remains on a 1 minute 18.854. Doesn't improve on his best time at this stage as another car went out on the track. I'm looking for somebody else on that. That'll be Charles Leclerc in the shadow. Currently 18th at the moment. Looking to improve if he can. As up towards the final turn goes the Monegas. As he will now come down the pit straight and across the line goes Leclerc. And he doesn't improve, remains 18th on his final flying lap there then. As we look for somebody else who's on a lap. Trying to find somebody else who's on a lap. It doesn't appear like anybody else is on one at the moment. So we'll look for somebody who recently just came out on the track. That would be Nico Hulkenberg in the EMR. He's definitely struggling around this track. His teammates up in 4th place at the moment in this session. Hulkenberg coming out the final turn as he will now head down the pit straight to start his lap. Looking to see if he can improve, as that looks like Alonso on the right hand side there who's just coming out on the track. Down towards turn 1 will go Hulkenberg as he uses the curb on the outside. Down towards the left-hander we go. And Hulkenberg now then going up down towards the right-hander. And he will now approach that quick left-hander on the track. And out the turn before he rounds the right-hander. And using quite a lot of curb on the outside up towards the quick right-left chicane. And in towards the S's we will go. And Hulkenberg on a clean lap, but this is going to be even an improvement for him as we come down to the final 7 minutes of this qualifying session to determine the grid for tomorrow's Hungarian Grand Prix. We're now at the 1:30 mark. We're half an hour away from the feature race for IFMC GP2. Into towards the final few turns goes Hulkenberg as he will now approach the left-hander. Let's see what Hulkenberg can manage this time by. Up towards the final corner goes the German And can he improve on this lap now then? Down the pit straight goes Hulkenberg, as he will now cross the line, and he remains 13th. So a disappointing qualifying session for Nico Hulkenberg in the EMR. So he seems to be struggling compared to teammate Vettel around here at Hungary. Meantime, Massa and Hartley on a lap. Let's see if Massa could be on for an improvement. Massa currently P8 at the moment, outpacing teammate Hartley at this stage of qualifying, as he will now go around the right-hander, as he uses quite a lot of curb on the outside up towards the quick right-left chicane. And now up towards the S as we go. And around we will go now then in towards these next section of corners. And out of the corner we go before approaching the final few corners on the track. See what Massa can do on this lap now then, as he will approach the second to last corner. And Massa will soon come up towards the final turn. Let's see what the Brazilian veteran can manage this time by. Around the final corner and onto the pit straight goes Felipe Massa, as he will now cross the line. This is going to be an improvement. It isn't. He remains 8th on his final flying lap there then. His teammate on his final flying lap, what can he manage? He doesn't improve and remains 14th. So again, being outpaced by Felipe Massa. Alonso crosses the line and remains 2nd. Isn't able to beat Hamilton this time by Verline starts a lap. Here's Antonio Giovinazzi. Can he try and get the Bud Light Lime into the top 10? Across the line he will go, and he remains 15th. No improvement for him, so disappointment for Antonio. Here comes Carlos Sainz Jr. down the pit straight. Across the line he will go, and he remains 16th with that lap. No improvement for the Spaniard. What about Max Verstappen? Danny, 10th place at this stage as he comes out of the final turn and onto the pit straight. Across the line goes Mad Max. Can he improve? And he does. He goes up to 4th, so he finally gets a better time in, and up to 4th place goes Max Verstappen in the Martini. Pushes Vettel down to 5th place at this stage. So the top 4 consisting of the same drivers from Hockenheim last weekend at the moment. As now we look at Van Dorn. Can he improve in the AMP as he heads down the pit straight? Across the line goes the Belgian, and he remains in 6th place. Only 1,000th off his best time there. But he remains 6th place with that lap. Valtteri Bottas, can this be an improvement for the Finn? And he remains 12th place, but improves his best time. And again, Eldorado struggling in qualifying. Ricciardo now then, is he on a good lap? As he comes out of the final turn, onto the pit straight, across the line goes the Aussie, and he remains 3rd. No improvement for him, isn't able to split the 2 Etiads this time by. Still 7th for Pascal Wehrlein, as it's still 17th for Perez. He improves on his best time, but still not great for Checo. As now we look at Ed Jones in the Mars Grand Prix car, who comes out of the chicane. He rounds the S's now then on the track, coming off the turn, as he will now go around these section of corners and around the right-hander. A lot of curb being used on the outside as he heads down towards the final few turns. And let's see what Jones can do on this lap. Out of the turn he goes, up towards the second to last corner. Let's see what his lap is capable of. As he comes out of the turn up towards the final corner. And can he try and get up close to the rest of the pack in the Mars Grand Prix car? Down the pit straight and across the line goes Ed Jones. Is this an improvement? And it isn't. He remains 20th on his final flying lap there then. As Van Dorn came back into the pits. A few cars going out on the track. And so that's that ready. Grosjean on track, as is Ocon. A few cars out on the track at the minute. Grosjean currently 11th. Just in the cusp of the top 10. His fellow compatriot Ocon. So Grosjean and Bud Light Line clearly struggling around this Budapest circuit here at for the Hungaroring. As now Grosjean rounds that right-hander. A lot of curb being used on the outside as he will now approach the final few turns. And now up towards the final 2 corners as Grosjean starts his I think his final flying lap, as we have just under 2.5 minutes to go in this qualifying session to determine the grid for tomorrow's Hungarian Grand Prix. As Grosjean comes down the pit straight and starts his final flying lap. He'll be joined by a few others as well. Vettel coming out on the track, looking to try and get himself into the top 3 if he can in the EMR, as Grosjean heads down towards turn 1. Out of turn 1 he goes, as he'll go through turn 2 and then up towards turn 3 on the track. Around that left-hander goes Grosjean, as he'll go down the hill towards the flat-out right-hander. Off the turn he goes, and now up towards the quick left-hander on the track now then. And now up towards the long right-hander he will go, as a lot of curb being used on the outside up towards the chicane. Around the right, then the left, and up towards the S's we will go. And let's see if Grosjean is on an improvement. Can he try and stick that Bud Light Lime into the top 10 as he comes off the corner now then down towards the last few turns on the track? And Grosjean now then is about to complete his lap as we go up towards the second to last corner. Up towards the final turn we will go. Is this going to be an improvement for Romain Grosjean? Just over a minute to go in the session as Grosjean heads down the pit straight. Across the line we will go, and he remains in P11, so a disappointing qualifying session for Bud Light Lime. As meantime, here is Esteban Ocon in the Martini. He rounds the final turn, and let's see what the Frenchman can manage. Down the pit straight and across the line he will go, and he remains 10th, so he's still in the cusp of the top 10. Kimi Raikkonen currently 8th in the Suomi, but can he find some improvement if he can, as he goes up towards the final turn? And down the pit straight goes the Iceman Kimi Raikkonen, as he will now cross the line, and he remains 8th with that lap there then. Here comes Lewis Hamilton. Can he improve on his pole time with 20 seconds to go? Out of the final corner onto the pit straight and across the line he will go. Is this going to be an improvement? And it isn't. He remains on a 1 minute 18.854 as we're down to the last 10 seconds. 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Checkered flag is out, and that is the end of the session then. The final flying laps being completed, this time by Dixon up towards the final turn in the Mars Grand Prix car. Let's see what he can manage as he goes down the pit straight. And Dixon across the line, and he improves but remains in 21st, so again being outpaced by teammate Ed Jones here in qualifying. Meantime, Sebastian Vettel, can he improve? Can he get his car into the top 3 now then as he heads down the pit straight? Across the line goes Sebastian Vettel, and he remains 5th with that lap. No improvement for the German. And I think that will do it. I presume the reason why it's not saying, well, I was going to say the reason why it's not saying quali over yet is probably because these guys crossed the line before the checkered flag even came out. So we will probably wait for Hamilton to go back into the pits, and it should say quali over unless it has something to do with Jean-Eric Vergne. No, there you go then, it says qualifying over, and there you have it then. So it is Lewis Hamilton who takes pole position for tomorrow's Hungarian Grand Prix, and Hamilton back to his pole ways. And it's an Etihad front row lockout, and in a way an Etihad 1-2-3 Ricciardo. An impressive third place in the GRM. George Roque will be a very happy man with that indeed. So there you have it then, guys. After all of that, here is the grid for tomorrow's Hungarian Grand Prix. Lewis Hamilton will start on pole position with Fernando Alonso in second. Max Verstappen, Daniel Ricciardo in third, with Max Verstappen fourth, Sebastian Vettel 5th, Stoffel Van Dorn 6th, Pascal Wehrlein in 7th, with Kimi Raikkonen 8th, Felipe Massa 9th, Esteban Ocon in 10th, with Romain Grosjean 11th, Valtteri Bottas in 12th, Nico Hülkenberg a disappointing 13th, with Brennan Hartley in 14th. And if we scroll down the rest of the field, it is Antonio Giovinazzi 15th, Carlos Sainz Jr. 16th, Sergio Perez all the way down in 17th on his return, with Charles Leclerc in 18th, and then it is Kevin Magnussen 19th, Ed Jones 20th, with Scott Dixon 21st, and due to his qualifying ban, Jean-Eric Vergne is 22nd and last. So there you have it then, guys. That is the grid for tomorrow's Hungarian Grand Prix. It's looking to be a very interesting one. Hopefully you'll tune in to that tomorrow at 3 PM at BST. But that is it for the top class for today. But stick around now, guys, because coming up next is the feature race for IFMC GP2, which sees Felix Rosenqvist on pole position ahead of Lando Norris and Sergei Sirotkin. So if you want to go and grab a quick drink, you can. But until then, I'm with JWF1, and I'll see you guys in just a little bit.